On that age. Okay. Yes. So if you all don't already know, Vanessa XIX and myself, Kendra Rochelle, we are part of Melanated Television, and we've got Miss King Tiff here with us of Sensual Bliss, and we're going to get into all things kink and kink education related. So let's get to it, Miss Nessa.
All right. So welcome to Melanated Television. My name is Vanessa XIX.
I'm Kendra Rochelle. You can follow me on all platforms, Facebook and Instagram. Teacher Bay on TikTok.
Oh. And today we have a very special guest, King Tiff.
Yes, hello. I'm King Tiff, Tiffany L. I am the owner of Sensual Bliss Life. That is Sensual Bliss Life. I'm a sex educator, certified sexologist, confidence coach, intimacy coach. What else? Ex, kind of still in the work realm, sex worker, dom. Yeah, so many levels to me.
I want to say this though. I wanted to have this interview because I am just now learning of the kink community. But honestly, like, just networking, I've noticed that we have a community of people who come together to express their sexuality. And I do know that sexuality is a part of self-confidence and loving yourself, learning to love your body. So I know that you have Sensual Bliss. And what is the basis of it? Like, what made you start it?
So that's two different things. So what made me start it is the individual that I was with at the time, which I started in 2013. We were having a lot of intimacy issues. I was having a lot of confidence issues, especially when it comes to my sensuality and my sexuality and our sex life. So I was struggling with that, mainly because he had cheated on me and made it seem like it was kind of all me, right? I mean, a lot of women have experienced that. I started it because we went on, I took him on a trip to Puerto Rico for his birthday at the time. And it was with a big group that does events all over the place, like Puerto Rico, Chattanooga, they do the ski weekend. Like it was that kind of thing. And his cousin was hounding me about taking this class, and it was marketed as like sexy fitness. And I'm like, I don't want to do that shit.
Right.
But I went, I was already intoxicated. I was late, because I didn't want to go. So I get there and I'm like, oh, this ain't, I mean, it's fitness, but it ain't fitness, So I jumped in because I've been dancing for years since I loved it. And she made us do the routine for our guys. It's like, because the three of us, our guys, believe it or not, I've never taken one. I've never taken a pole class, and it's on my list.
But I know. I hosted a pole party 2 years ago with my business. I run a business, Saving Our Ladies Life, and we work to help women advocate for their financial and educational freedom. And a part of that for me is helping women tap into their feminine energy and bask in their softness. I believe businesses like yours are so important to our community because Black women especially, but women in America are taught that sex is something that's done to us. We don't often explore our sensual sides. We don't learn about pleasure. A lot of women really, they get into sexual situations and get pounded. And like that song by Kevin Gates, Stand Up On Your Toes, Breathe Through Your Nose. And he like beating his, I'm like, that's abuse.
Right.
But the thing about it is, orgasms to people. Like the female body can have 11, the male body can have 7. When you learn about our anatomy, you don't come from that. That is for them. They're meeting your cervix. You come from grinding against the G-spot, the clit, and rubbing those walls down, not beating.
When you say that, when you say that about true, we do have a concept that it's done to us, that we're just here to satisfy the men. That's why some women are just more so they just like have you seen, y'all seen The Color Purple?
Yes.
Cece was just laying there while this was
he got on top of me and did his business.
But that also goes to the point where a lot of women has not had orgasms until later on in life. Men, they orgasm pretty much every time, but a woman, they've never experienced that ecstasy until later.
One of the studies that I read about that was like there were 85% of the women who participated in this study who had never experienced the orgasm. And to me, that's mind blowing because I experienced my first orgasm by myself. My first orgasm with a man was on his hand. So by the time I had sex, when I heard my peers tell me that sex was painful for them, I'm like, why? Nothing about sex should be painful.
Right. So they're too big.
It could be a medical thing.
Yeah, for sure.
A medical condition as well.
But even size should not cause you any pain. And so Tiff alluded earlier to how she had previously been into sex work. And so I do want to get into that a little bit more about what is sex work and how do you define it?
Sex work has so many levels to it, but anything that you do that you gain money from, you is sexually, sensually, because it can literally be dancing. Strippers are considered sex workers, obviously prostitutes, male strippers as well. Unfortunately, I had to come to terms with it over the last couple of years that sensual bliss is in the sex worker realm, even though we're not directly getting paid to come and do services or do something like that. We technically are in. We've been invited several times to perform and do the lingerie portion at Exotica. That is a sex expo. So, we are we're in that business industry. So like I said, had to come to terms with that over the years because it took me so many years to differentiate sensual bliss from being strippers or prostitutes to being a sensuality-based business. Is it sex driven? Absolutely, because sex sells. But at the end of the day, our foundation is learning and encouraging women to be in tune with their sexuality and their sensuality more than anything. Our slogan is discover the sexy, sensual you. You can be sexy, you can be sensual, but they're two totally different things. So
I have a question for you.
Yes.
About you though. Why King Tiff instead of Queen Tiff?
So I got asked me. I got asked. I'm about to come about the sweatshirt because you got to ask me a couple of questions. I'm getting a little hot.
We're applying the pressure. The pressure is getting worse.
King Tiff actually originated from a Snapchat name. When I finally got on Snapchat about 6 years ago, I put my name as King Tiff 730. That's my birthday. I'm a Leo. I am big on my zodiac sign. King of the jungle. King of the jungle. That's literally where it came from. But years ago, even before Snapchat, I was calling myself. I just recently had to change this out of my phone. It's so funny. I used to consider myself or refer to myself as Queen and King. Because King of the jungle, I think I'm the boss of everything and everybody. But because I'm a female, I'm a queen. But nowadays, obviously, with being in the sex worker realm and us being more in tune with our masculine side and feminine, I just adopted and just let y'all keep rolling with the King Tiff.
I like it too, and I think made a very good point, when you were talking about the sex worker side of it, and then even with the name. When it comes to women and our sensuality and our sexuality, a lot of us have a hard time stepping into it because it's so demonized. When you are a woman and you break out of the box, for instance, if you start having sex, what are your family and your friends going? Oh, she fast, or oh, this, that, and the third. But it's but my male peers are having sex at 12, 13, 14, 15. I didn't have sex till 17, but I was still called fast at 17. And I learned so much about sex before I actually engaged in sex. And so
you see pornography.
Oh yeah, I was watching porn. I was addicted to porn probably before the age of 12. Like I thought it was so fascinating to. And Tiffany was saying like she had a hard time coming to terms with the word sex worker. For me, sex with women, I like men, I have sex with men. I did not say that out loud until I was in my 30s. Like I am a bisexual woman. I am turned on by women. And I think a big part of that was because I didn't want those. Like look at my character, look at me as a person.
Like you see a gay man, you look at him more so for sexuality versus this.
Yes, exactly.
He has feelings, and then this happens to be what, you know what I'm saying?
How he expresses himself. And they're like, his gayness is his personality, but that's not the case.
Right.
Now, there are some people like that. When I come across people like that, I do get overwhelmed. Like, if gay is your personality, like, what does that mean for you? Did you get lost in developing your identity and finding your sexuality? I've always wanted to ask people stuff like that, but everybody's not an open book like me. You can't just go asking certain people certain questions.
Yeah. So, like, with sex work, there's people who want to be singers, actors, doctors. What makes one want to get into the professional sex work? Because I looked at prostitution, even though you don't prostitute, but I looked at like sex work is one of the oldest professions. Like
it is. Prostitution is one. It's in the Bible. It's one of the oldest professions in the world. It's been around since.
So I wonder what makes one get into. And I want to get into a little bit. Like there's a quote in the Bible. I don't want to get into the Bible, but it talks about prostitution. But yeah, what makes one want to get into sex work? You think?
Well, it could be two things. So it could be about already being comfortable within yourself and you don't care. Like, this is what you like to do. This is what makes you feel good. But on the other side, it could be the insecurity aspect, like the validation from outside sources instead of the validation within yourself. So it could be twofold. And then just simply the money aspect. Like, I mean,
lots of money in sex.
a lot of money in sex work. But so it, with the self part of it could be this outside validation, or it could just be the fact that I'm comfortable and I love expressing myself in this manner. Like, I'm a dancer. When I did have my OnlyFans, that's literally what I did. Like, I danced in lingerie on my OnlyFans, and that was it. Or I took pictures in lingerie on my OnlyFans. That was it. And I liked it. I just didn't have the time to keep the content up, so
sex work is so demonized, but there are women who don't care. Like, this is what I want to do. And I do applaud people who have that don't care attitude, who still just lives by the beat of their own drum. But it's just like, it's so demonized. And it's like, okay, what makes someone still want to take on this profession that society looks at as taboo?
I think a lot of times what it has to do with is they have shrugged off that cloud of society's judgment and the society's shame and stuff. Once you come from under that cloak, like I said, I was under that cloak. I was part of the homophobic community in the Black community because I am part of the queer community, but I did not want to say it out loud. I did not want to express that out loud because when you see me, if you see me with my fiance, I'm not queer presenting. You wouldn't guess what my kinks are, what my fetishes were simply by looking at me. But if you get to know me and I open up about it, I've learned that sharing my own story has helped other people, because when I talk to women and they are like, oh, well, I have questions about this, or I want to talk about this. And any one of my friends who has explored being with a woman, when it comes to me before, the first thing I'll say to them is like, well, they're like, well, I want to do this. I'm like, well, the only way that you'll know if you like eating pussy is if you put your face and want to do it. Like, just do it. You have to try it. They're like, well, how do I do it? I'm like, when you be down there, you'll know. It'll be just like riding a bike. It'll be just like,
I never did it. I just feel like when it comes to something that you're curious about, if you want to try it,
you just have to do it. You have to dive in. And I think a lot of times, like, we get scared of what other people will say, even with dating. Like, I know people who have shied away from certain type of relationships, or even, immediately there was an episode on The Game. I don't know if y'all watched that show when it was out. The Game. When what's his name, Pookie, was dating a plus size girl, but he was hiding it. He loved BBW women, but he was always on the scene with models and skinny girls and stuff like that. And the BBW that he was with was like, you're not going to keep me as a secret or a trophy. And in that moment, he didn't understand, like, oh, I'm giving you the attention and the affection, but she was like, I deserve more. Like, I'm confident. I know who I am. I want to be seen. I want to be shown out. And I think when you live in shame, you hide stuff from yourself and you hide yourself from other people.
So I think that there's also a stigma that comes with sex workers, as if she's like, okay, you said that you were afraid to express that, but just because you like women, or if you're just because you're a man who like men, doesn't necessarily mean that you're promiscuous. There is a stigma on sex workers as being very promiscuous people.
Right.
But some sex workers, you was telling me about a young lady who,
yes,
she's not out here sleeping around,
no,
because that's not even her preference, but a lot of people have that misconception of her. So do you believe that hoes exist? Like,
absolutely.
Like, how do you take the stigma of a sex worker from being hoes to just women who are just embracing their sexuality and it's fun to them? And
hoes are women who embrace their sexuality. That's just
so it's a good
line.
thing to be a hoe.
It depends on your preference. If you want to be a hoe, be a hoe. If you don't want to be a hoe, don't be a hoe. But I think there are two sides of that coin as well. It's a double-edged sword. There are some women who are sexually promiscuous because they have sexual traumas, because they have things that have happened to them that make them hypersexual, because they need to feel touched and loved, and that's how they feel love, is through sex. But then you have some women who just like to fuck. And I, as a woman who like to have orgasms, I like to please my partners, and I like to have orgasms. When I say that to people, they're automatically like, oh, you're fucking everybody. I'm like, no. But when I have a partner, we could go 3, 4, 5 times in a day, because that's what I like. When I'm single, I govern my body accordingly, because not everybody is worthy of being in my body. There are lots of diseases out here. There are lots of issues that go on out here. So simply because a woman likes to have sex with a lot of people, it doesn't mean like she's a bad person innately. Because I think a lot of times people look at a woman and be like, oh, she can only be this thing. She can't be multiple things. You can't be a professional and be a hoe.
See, people like
that's how they feel.
Right.
Like,
I mean, the stigma is real. Like you said, you can't, in some people's eyes, you can't be more than one thing. You can't have more than one title. I hate the word labels, by the way.
Yes.
But they are real. They exist. You can very much so be a professional and have an OnlyFans. Yep. And let's call spade a spade. Like, just because you have an OnlyFans doesn't mean that you're doing something sexual on there.
Because OnlyFans was out for a long time before people started doing sex.
And
artists, musicians, all kinds of people.
And I had to do that research myself, because I'm like, well, what else is on here? Like, because I would start seeing it come up as OnlyFans, the term came up a lot on social media. You know, you start seeing different things come up that people do on there. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, because I thought it was only for the fans of sex workers. So I had to, remove that from my thoughts myself. But as far as that goes, you don't have to just be labeled as one thing. Like, clearly you said you were homo,
biromantic,
and
bisexual, polyamory.
And I am polyamorous, but that's not what I said earlier. Like, I believe in I believe in polyamory. I do believe that people can have multiple love, they can fall in love with multiple people. But I was explaining that most men, there was a study that I read that it was explaining that most people in America, where they did the study, it was like 85% of the people who participated in that study were bisexual, like men and women. And another study that I read.
What makes one bisexual?
Attraction.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't necessarily have to act on it. It's just about attraction. You just have to be attracted.
I mean, there are a lot of closeted men who hypersexualize women because they don't want to touch those urges that they actually have. So they'll ignore the fact that they may be booty banging, but they're just gonna chase after women. And it's like, that's when I was talking. So men often, when that study, it was explaining these different terms, and homoromantic and heterosexual is what you often see in men who do not like to date women, who are like, oh, going on dates is a waste of my time, and I'd rather hang with the bros before hoes. Those guys are those guys are homoromantic. Those guys reserve their romantic emotions, their feelings, their deep thoughts and stuff for their homes. And I know a lot of women who are like that. Like, they'll be in a relationship with men, but they're not gonna, like, their man doesn't care how they feel. Like, if you're with somebody who doesn't care how you feel,
Definitely
why are you
attached.
doing?
I also feel like I'm a big believer, a firm believer in a lot of things stem from how you were raised.
Yes,
Facts.
And that's not just in the household, it is the nature aspect of it too. So your environment, yes, your nature versus nurture. I think it can be 50-50. So when you were saying that earlier, it made me think of that, because if you are brought up off of survival versus off of love, then that's a whole nother aspect of how that plays into your sexuality too.
Yeah.
So if your mother was not very affectionate, or your father didn't allow for you as a male to express your feelings and your emotions, then that too plays into your sexuality as well. Because if you're not comfortable expressing that to your mate, your female counterpart, but you feel comfortable expressing it to your homeboys, that plays into that.
Yeah.
Not to discount any of what you said by any means, because it definitely makes sense. It definitely makes sense. I was just like, what?
Because I know a few people.
But you have to become, and that's not something that just like will forever stick. You can actually you can turn that around, but you have to be willing to.
You gotta do the work.
You have to, you have to do the work. So and I'm gonna butcher it every time. You said it's called what?
Homoerotic.
Homoerotic is a type of porn.
Right.
Okay, so you got homoromantic, homosexual, heterosexual, heteromantic, biromantic, and bisexual.
Okay. Oh, baby, you have to write that
I
down.
know. So sexuality is a spectrum. Like, a lot of people think it's cut and dry, like you're this or you're that, but it's not that.
But I am learning that. That's why it's like I've always been interested in, like, okay, the things that I probably have wanted to do, but I've never just had the courage to do it, or because I just know what comes with that. So it's like at a point in time, I wanted to be like a Megan Thee Stallion. I wanted to like be an artist who expressed her sexuality. I was very in tune to that. But as I got older, especially when I became a mother, my mindset changed. But I am a grown ass woman, and I do like to have conversations with other grown people about our experiences when it comes to sex. Like even like you said, there are women who may have insecurities or who don't, who want to keep the spice alive in their relationships. Like, you help those women. I feel like sometimes these conversations help us to share experiences on how to keep our self-confidence and our partner satisfied in ourselves. So it's just like, I remember at a point in time I wanted to, I was told to take pictures of my body and put it in magazines. Like, people was encouraging me to be like a booty model and all this other stuff, but I just never had the courage to. So I always like to talk to the people who has that courage. You know what I'm saying?
So I do wonder, Tiff, do you consider yourself a sex educator? Like, are you a kink educator? Do you help people explore that type of stuff? Because I know I have met like Jade, the loveologist, and she said she talks to people about safely exploring different things sexually. So does the sensual life?
So when it comes to the education aspect, I have not publicly really said that I'm a kink educator, but I have definitely educated a lot of people when it comes to different kinks. And if you want to get into the dom sub aspect of your relationship, or add different things in, and how to do that safely, how to do that in an adult manner, because
a lot of people
it can
think
be
50 Shades of Grey was the answer.
incorrectly on some occasions. So yes, I do offer that. I just don't. It just kind of comes up in conversation.
Right.
But as far as like my coaching, like the sexologist work that I do, I'm more of your sensual side of things. So I like to do intimacy coaching, like I said earlier, confidence coaching, things of that nature, because that's what I'm into when I do sensuality coaching, how to become more in tune with your sensual side. So those are the things that I try to really just stick with, the things that I've experienced. So that I can really relate to, because that is what has grown my business, just being relatable to other women who are suffering and struggling from the same thing. So
now I keep hearing you're not interchanging them. You said they were two different words, the sensuality and sexuality. So how would you express that to people? How do you tell people like, this is expressing your sensuality, this is expressing your sexuality? How do you teach women the difference?
So I mainly focus on the sensual part of it. Sexuality is on the sex side, right? And to differentiate that, sensuality is your being in tune with your sexual, your affection, your softer side. Because a lot of us who are more masculine in tune, it's harder for us to do that. If you were raised by an independent woman and you are considered an independent woman now, or you're considered a single mother now, we have to take on both of those identities, both the mom, the dad, the feminine, the masculine. We got to be the good cop, the bad cop. So being able to become more in touch with your sensual side is becoming more softer, becoming more in tune with your woman, your feminine, your, like I said, your sensual side. And it's so crazy because back in, I think, March or April, I did a small group out at the Body Vault, and it was all about sensuality and what was it? It was confidence, sex and confidence or something like that. And we really stuck on the sensual topic. And one of the girls that was in that group was like, I just get asked quite often, especially since I work around a lot of men, like why am I so hard? And be more soft. She kept saying soft. I just want to be more soft with my touch, with my walk. And I was literally just in conversation with her. And I told her, let me, put your hand in my hand. And I said, you see how hard you put your hand in my hand? And I said, take it off, shake it off. And I said, try it again, but be intentional with it. And she was just like, and I was like, it's so simple. I mean, it's simple to me. But it can be really hard because it was hard for me at one point. And it still is, because I'm a single mother and I'm a single mother of a boy.
Oh yeah.
So I feel like the sensuality also goes into like, there's men who say, you don't rub my back. You don't kiss me enough. You don't just rub my chin hurt. Rub your fingers through my head. I feel like that
means I don't like you.
Yeah.
I honestly, I tell men that all the time. Women don't take men on dates. No, you just don't date nobody.
You don't create.
Oh, she don't caress me. No,
that emotion in that woman to want her to be. But some women do have a hard time being that way because they may love a man, but I do agree with you wholeheartedly that you don't provoke me to want to caress.
Right.
It is a thing. It's a major thing.
Conversation for another day, but why be with someone that you don't like?
That's definitely a conversation for another day because I've heard a lot of men explain why they do it. But one of the things that I wanted to touch on with the sensuality is like she said that it's about intentionality. And I feel like when you are a woman that is sensual, like I am a very sensual woman. And I have men tell me all the time, like, oh, you hate men and you're so strong. I was like, you feel like that
because I certain type of men.
Exactly. I don't hate men at all.
I just know how you are.
Exactly. Yeah. And
you don't hate them.
It takes for you to get to know me. So it's like, this is what I encounter as a woman who has always been sensual. It's not to say I didn't get in my masculine energy and had to get back because I too was a single mom with boys. And it was one of those things like I had to break out of that cycle. And I was aware that I was in the cycle and I was just like, this ain't love. I don't like this. I got to go. But when I got back into being back to my sensual self and my feminine energy or whatever, one of the things that I noticed is that when you are a sensual woman and you operate in the world that we live in today, men take it as a target. I had somebody express to me recently that I am an approachable woman. So that's why I get hit on so much. That's why I'm this, that, and the third. And I was like, honestly, it's just how I move through spaces.
You have high energy.
Exactly. I was at work one day and in my last job, I was an orientation coordinator. I was helping low income people get subsidy to pay their utility bills. I had multiple men try to hit on me in this session, but I had one man in particular that always stuck with me. He was like, I don't mean no offense. It was like after I had been his class and, we was on lunch break. I was getting lunch before my next class. And he was like, I don't mean no offense, but that energy you give off, that sexual energy, you just so like, you're a woman's woman. And I was like, get the fuck out my face, sir. Like, why would you say that? You somebody's girlfriend. I knew where he was coming from. I knew what he was saying, but it was like, I feel like a lot of what men project on women is how they feel about women. So if we are in our sexual energy and we're moving through our space and we get raped, they're like, well, you were asking for it. You put yourself in a position to, and it's like, no, I was just existing. When we exist as women, we have two options. We either have to be hard, like that girl working around me. She probably got hard so she could ward off the number of men that were trying to talk to her, or we can choose to be soft and still have to fight for our softness and still have to fight to be sensual. Because women, I get dressed for myself, and women can appreciate that. Like when I get compliments from women, I love it. But the way men choose to compliment me, I'm like,
yeah,
really?
Yeah.
That was your choice of words?
That's how you wanted to compliment me.
Girl, I had a man ask me, could he kiss my tongue one day? I cut my tongue, and he was just, I was like, ow. He's like, what's wrong? And I was like, I just cut my tongue. Sorry. He was like, you want me to kiss it for you? Can I kiss it? And I was just like,
that's to me. I do have a question, but I want to follow up what you said. Actually, follow up both of you. But so with that, I feel like men have that. We're animals. Mm-hmm. So when they sense that femininity in you, that's kind of like them tapping into that beastie out there, beast in them. Yeah. And it's like they lose their senses. And
but it's not us.
It's not us at all. It's just it's something that they have no control of. I mean, they need to learn how to control that. You know what I'm saying? But they lose their damn minds, and that's just what it is to me. Because like when you said this woman was dressed as like she was raped, that's because that man lost his senses, obviously, and raped that woman. Because not every woman who's been raped was because she was dressed provocatively.
Absolutely, nuns get raped,
like
Catholic priests, ladies, like the women who work in churches get raped, women who dress cup. Arabic women who wear perukes get raped, like.
But with that, with sex work, I know that there's a lot of people who say sex workers need to be protected. In the defense, I would say sometimes women do put themselves, like, your sexuality is the most vulnerable and sacred aspect of yourself to me. So it's like, I understand life should be protected, but if someone is putting themselves in a vulnerable position, do you feel like it's kind of, if something happens, it's kind of their fault? Or like, how do you protect somebody who puts themselves out there?
I'm just giving this analogy for you. Have you ever been to Saks Outfit?
Sex outfit.
Or any like high end?
Yeah, I've been to Saks.
I've been to Saks. So, you know, they have the Robin jeans out on the floor that's about $200. They got the Miss Me jeans that's $200. They got all these name brand things that are on the floor. If people run through the store and steal stuff off that floor because it's out there, they just putting it out there. If somebody runs through the store and steals all that stuff, who's at fault? The people who stole the stuff or the people who set up the turnstiles with stuff that's expensive? That's the same ideology with sex workers.
I just think
sex workers.
I can't say that because I feel like sex is facts. I've been in a sex business, but I think that when it comes to your sexuality, like, it's just sacred. Like, that's what creates the world. That's the population. It's a whole industry. Of course, if you're still in clothes, that's not their fault. But your body in clothes, I just think, are two totally different.
Somebody choosing to force sex on you
because they feel like, okay, so would you want your daughter? Would you want her to be a sex worker?
As long as she's doing the best that she possibly can be.
Like, if that was all the occupations
be the best you can be.
Would you want her to be
I want you to give them the Mercedes experience. If you're gonna be a stripper, I want you to put on a phenomenal show.
So what if, like, what you have a nonprofit, you are doing things to bring resources to women. Like, that sex is just an aspect, but that's not all that you represent.
Right.
You are teaching women to love themselves, have confidence. Like, it's bigger than just sex. It's like there's actually substance in what you guys are trying to do. Absolutely. So what if this young lady, that's just all she wanted, was just to have an OnlyFans and be like the modern day Instagram? You know what I'm saying? Like, what if that's all she wanted to be, was just
society has made it acceptable.
What she aspires to do, and she's comfortable. Let her be. Like, that's the biggest thing about our day and age now. Like, today's society is being in everybody else's business. Yes. Like, just
but
to be
we put our business out there,
and that's fine. You can look at somebody's business without being in it. You can observe without being in it. Like, me putting my judgment on somebody else because they chose to share a piece of their life with me. I'm on social media, but I tell people all the time, you will not know my life based off my social media. You don't know if I'm single, angry, beating up niggas, loving on bitches. You don't know what I'm doing. Because I share so much crazy stuff. So
but just because we put it out there doesn't necessarily mean that it warrants every
Attack.
single response or attack. But and it's the same thing. Like you have to be ready for whatever comes your way. I am a firm believer, and I feel about this about social media too, and putting your life on Front Street. Like if you put your hands on somebody, you better be ready for what may come after that. It originated from, as a female, if you put your hands on a male, you better be ready for what the reaction might be.
Sure.
Like same thing with putting your business out on social media. Same thing with being public with your relationship or with, you know, whatever work industry you're in. Same exact concept. But we also have to remember that we don't have to comment on everybody's stuff. We don't not have to insert ourselves into everybody's life and everybody's situation, you know, and their decisions.
Right.
Like if it don't sit well with you, excuse yourself from it. If that post, you ain't feeling that post or any other post that they make, delete them or mute them.
Let it fly.
If you look at crime, like if you go to like the crime world and prostitute, y'all not prostitutes, but I feel like that is a realm of sex work.
It is.
But like their lives are deemed less. Like they're like some of the most prominent serial killers, those would be the women that they were targeted with sex workers because
Jack the Ripper.
There was who else was
But
it?
that's an American thing though. Like if you look historically, like I was talking to this about the Asian culture in Asia. The Orions are sex workers, they're prostitutes, and they are highly regarded in society. Like they sit next to kings and emperors and things like that because their profession is highly regarded. So you have Mycos, you have the geishas, and then you have the Orions, and those are sex workers. They are women who get paid to spend time with men. Some of the geishas don't have sex, Orions do, and Mycos. And the Mycos, they serve the geishas, like they help tend the tea houses and stuff like that. But ultimately, they get paid to service men, even though if they're not having sex with them. In America, we deem sex as a control tool a lot of times. Like men can have sex, men can do what they want to do, but women, y'all better listen to us. Do as we say, not as we do. And because we live in that society, we were groomed like that. We believe that. And it's not necessarily the case because sex, this is my take on it. If sex with a man makes me less valuable, I should not be having sex with me. If you touching me causes you to depreciate me in value, I shouldn't be having sex with you. And by the same virtue, men who think that women having sex devalues them. Why are you having sex? Why are you doing stuff to devalue that woman? You're depreciating her.
Yeah, I totally understand that. It's just I as a woman don't. I mean, but it's just different. Like y'all not on the spectrum of the bottom, but like everything has its pros and its cons. Y'all not the extreme. I mean, we're not the extreme because I express my sexuality in my own way as well. Like I do believe that I do like what you're doing regarding just helping women to be softer because we do have a society of people telling women that they're becoming more masculine and they're walking in that masculine energy. So what you ladies doing is healing to women and their sexuality. And sometimes I also wonder, like, do women get into the line of sex work because there has been sexual trauma, like you said? Some people are over hyper sexual because things have happened to them. So it's like, sometimes I wonder what makes someone just want to tap into,
it's different for everybody though. Just any decision is going to be different for everybody. Her decision for getting into sex therapy is different from mine. Like, to be honest, me becoming a certified sexologist, one was the pressure from my other fellow sexologists, thanks you guys, but also because it makes sense.
Yeah.
I've had sensual bliss for 9 years now. And people come to me literally, like, before I even thought about becoming a certified sexologist, people were always in my inbox asking me sex questions. And I'm like,
I need to help these people.
Yeah.
Because obviously they trust me enough to ask me. So just getting the certificate, just because I'm certified now does not make me more knowledgeable than I was before when they were asking me. It just gave me the paperwork.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It gave me the opportunity to be listed on national websites and directories.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, like the same examples, I mean, not the same examples, but the same experience that I've had with discussing things with people, coaching people, the experiences that I've had sexually are my experiences, and they're the same ones that I share with new clients and old clients. So at the end of it, like I share from experience, and I don't give advice. I give my opinion.
Mhm.
There's a big difference
Mhm.
because people will be like, I need some advice. I'm not going to give you advice. I'm going to share experiences with you and my opinions, and we're going to work through what you feel like you need to do to manage this or help you in this situation. So there's different situations for different people, different examples. There's different reasons for everybody as to why they got into sex work, why they make the decisions that they make. I got out of psychology because there's no way in hell or in the world that you can understand anybody's mind and why they do the things that they do.
You know what I'm saying?
I got out of psychology because of that. I got into it because that's what I wanted to find out. But I got out of it because of that same reason. Ain't that ironic?
It is. I was literally about to ask you. So I am in school right now to get my license to clinical social work so I can offer therapy instead of charge. My goal ultimately is to charge people's therapy. I mean, their insurance instead of charging them for therapy, because I feel like that'll help me get that loophole for our community, because a lot of us cannot afford therapy and stuff like that. But my question to you was, I heard you say this, people pressured you into getting your sexologist license. Now, I had somebody pressure me.
Good pressure level.
No, I believe it. So I got my life coaching certification, even though I didn't need a certification to be a life coach. I'm getting my therapy license, even though I can do therapy, I just can't charge insurances without that certification. I have a friend who keeps telling me, like, you already do so much. Like I heard you say, like, it doesn't make me more knowledgeable because I have a certification. It just, and I have been asking sexologists, like, can you explain to me why I need a sexologist? Like, why do I need to take these classes to get this certification? Because I already do this, and the third. And I already work with people who have disabilities on exploring themselves. And I already, focus on safe sex with people. So how will that change my knowledge base, and how will it help me?
For me, it did. I'm not gonna say, so let me backtrack. It didn't make me extremely more knowledgeable. Let me say that.
But it did.
It definitely added to things that I did not understand.
Got you.
And it allowed me to really find my niche. Even though I've always, like for years at this point, I've loved the sensuality part of it. I know that that's what I love to, focus on and things of that nature, the confidence part of it and intimacy, right? But one of our assignments was to like really hone in and figure it out. Like, what is your niche? And I hate that word, but what is your specialty, right? What is your concentration? And that really allowed me to be like, this is what it is. Because I can be your sex coach or your sex therapist and help you through your kinks or your, if that's what you want to get away from or maintain or manage. But to be honest, that's not what I want to do. And I can say that because I've learned more about it. I've had people literally call me and was jacking off on the phone because they see my picture on a certified website, a directory.
That's correct.
And like it was, I was just like, yep, nope, nope, I'm okay. I'm all right. So things that happen like that, while getting my certification is what really made me realize, I don't want to do that.
Don't want to coach like that.
It will. So why you should get it or why you should continue, just so that if you are unsure, if you have this broad spectrum right now of what you like to do or what you're interested in, it'll help you bring it all in.
See, for me, I want to focus on pleasure and orgasms. I want, because that's the sex coaching that I do with women. Well, because I'm not a coach technically, I'm a sex therapist. A lot of what the women come to me about is like, I can't orgasm with my partner. I've never orgasmed by myself. So I focus on pleasure and helping women feel comfortable getting into their pleasure, because I have met so many women that like, I can't use toys. I've never touched myself. And one of the first things I always encourage them to do is to take time and sit with the mirror and like get to know her, talk to her, look at her, see what you see what other people see when they're looking at you, like see the real you.
With your body.
Yeah. And so like, I do have my niche. So I'm like, I really like the answer. I need to get back to
that, and being on national and international directories.
connections.
Especially-
It's all about networking.
Especially with you going to, to get your degree and become a certified or licensed social worker, that will help you tremendously when it comes to getting clients, because as we,
Credibility, I would say.
yeah, and as we know, we are not only in a candid world anymore.
Yeah.
Everything you can do almost virtually.
Yeah.
So being internationally listed on different directories will help. I mean,
I have a question, because then I want to get into talking about the expo.
Oh yeah.
So is there an unhealthy way to express your sexuality? Is there any boundaries that should not be crossed? Is there anything that is unhealthy? Because like, okay, you said a hoe is gonna be a hoe, but I feel like a hoe is someone who expresses her sexuality negatively. But everybody's preference is different. Everybody's definition is different.
What is the spectrum or the measurement?
Like, how are we gauging
what
wrong?
a hoe is and what is doing
Okay,
it
I
wrong?
think that a hoe is someone who has who misuses her vagina. I'll just say that.
But if it's hers to use, how is it being misused?
You can misuse a
so-
lot of things. You can misuse your body eating too much. When you put in the wrong things in your body, I think that's misusing your body. Or even laying with the wrong
talking
partner.
about the vagina. How do you misuse a vagina? Like if you're a woman who
Your
decides
vagina
give
is
it to
attached
him,
to you and your brain. So I feel like all of that is one. So I think that you can allow yourself to be abused and misused. I think that that's what I think is a hoe. She has no attachment to, she's detached in a way.
your brain is
And
connected
she's
to
just
anything in
running-
your body, right? It's just there. It floats.
I get what you're
And
saying,
it's
though,
definitely
like-
connected because you have neurons, you have veins, it sends signals to your body. But I know you have a spinal cord, your spine is connected to your brain. But I mean, that's just how I feel.
So back to the question. What's the question again?
How do you find an unhealthy way to express your sexuality?
Just not being safe. One,
Yeah.
being protected,
Mhm.
and not taking care of yourself, like getting your checkups and stuff like that. Those were the first things that come to mind with that question. As far as like you chimed in and said something about, well, how is she misusing her body as her body or something like that?
Well, her vagina, because she asked about a hoe specifically. So I'm like, if a hoe she's being called a hoe because she's using her vagina a lot. And you're saying she's misusing it, but it like if that's what her choice of use for her
Improper
vagina
pussy
is.
management.
Yeah, now that's my
not
favorite
what I'm
word.
saying.
I just like to play devil's
Improper
advocate.
pussy
So I do believe you can have improper pussy management. I think when you are a woman who, like Vanessa, you equate your emotions to, your sex.
I do.
So if you are having sex with somebody and you're then saying like, I'm emotionally invested, so he should be emotionally invested because we're having sex, that's not safe. Because he might not be emotionally invested. Yeah, like you operate from a place of these are my feelings and this is the sex, so this is all one thing. You jumble it all up, and it's like that could be bad for women, and it does turn out bad. I've seen so many women like, oh, we have this and we do that, and he told me we're gonna have a baby, so I'm gonna do that. But it's like, but he ain't working, he ain't taking care of you, he don't court you, he's never taking you out, you haven't met his family, y'all have this very tumultuous relationship, he's disrespected all your boundaries. But you still want to have a baby with him because he's present, because y'all are having sex.
And you're lonely.
And you feel loved. So, or you feel you love them.
You're not being realistic about what's actually going on.
Yes.
You are just flying through the red flags.
Okay, so emotional relationship aside, what are ways to just express unhealthy? Like, is there anything that is too far when it comes to sex? I mean, I know there's sadistic sex. There's people who likes to be gagged, people who like Like when I listen to a lot of these crime stories, there's people who died in the midst of having sex.
Yeah, but those are usually accidents, and that's not being safe. Yeah,
the safe word and consent, because obviously you have to have consent with when you get into the BDSM realm of things. So that to touch on like situations where somebody has gotten hurt, harmed, or actually passed away, that's because it was taken a little too far, or they just didn't know the actual boundaries, or you didn't hear the safe word, because you was just too engulfed in the scene. And the scene is the way that you're playing.
I know there was an episode on 1,000 Ways to Die. Somebody died because he put on a latex suit and he didn't know he had his kink was the latex. Like he wanted to do this with his partner, but he didn't know he had a latex allergy. So he died after he got sipped into it.
You have to
the research. You gotta know.
Have y'all ever seen Lovecraft Country? Anybody?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember that episode where the Asian girl? It was basically he was dating Journey. I forgot her name on the show, but she felt like he was her first. Like she never had sex. He took her virginity. But there was a time where he was actually in war and he was reliving like the first girl he ever loved and everything. And she was that Asian girl because in the beginning of the show she was having sex with a man and then she morphed into some type of creature and killed him. Yeah. When she was in the bed with him, she saw his future, his past. So I kind of felt like that was a representation of when you lay with somebody, you become one because she saw everything. So in that whole episode, her mother was just like, you only need one more and then you'll forget everything that happened to you. So she was basically constantly having sex because she was killing people. She was having dreams. She was having a lot of negative things happen to her spiritually and mentally. So hypersexuality was the way that she was supposed to forget about everything that happened to her, which originally was because her father had molested her growing up. So it's just like, she was constantly using her body, and in the midst of that, it was really hurting her. She's like, Mom, I don't want to continue to do this. But her mother was giving her ill advice. So I just look at that as symbolism as when you, like this young lady was not happy with having sex with all these people. It was not good for her, and it wasn't curing anything that her mother was telling her that it was going to do. So it's like, if a young lady came to and said she had 200 sex partners, I don't know if you heard a dime in the body, but she's some type of rapper. She said I don't know if that's
sex with over 2,000 people. I don't know the course of her sexual, but I mean, and she included men and women in it. So I mean, think about the number of people that I have over 5,000 people on my Facebook. And I know most of those people. So it's like, if I chose to have sex with every one of them at different points in my life, then yeah, I too would have reached a very high number. Right. But I think it's really odd to get caught up on numbers when it comes to sexuality because it's like, why? Because at a certain point, you don't value. I feel like at a certain point, you just don't value who you're giving that to. Like, are you just out here chasing a nut, or do you really value? Okay, this is who deserves to give me an orgasm, or is it just like I just want to bust a nut?
Everybody doesn't think like that. So everybody doesn't understand the importance of valuing their body, and it takes to become educated. Self-work, self-discovery, self-education is very, very, very important, especially when you start tapping into the spiritual world. And that's a whole nother thing, but you mentioned you're opening up a portal, you know what I'm saying? Like without going too deep, you are sharing very intimate relations and parts of yourself when you have sex with somebody. Now, can you turn that off? Absolutely. Because it's just emotion, right? If you are that in tune and in control of your emotions, you can also be that in tune with your spirituality and being able to manifest things during sessions or relations with your partner or with somebody. But you also have to know the person that you're laying with too, because they can be very in tune and they can be creating or manifesting or pushing, blocking shit onto you and you don't even know. So it is very important to know who you're sleeping with before you just lay with them. But if you don't give a shit, then obviously you're not thinking about that. And it could be very detrimental not only for your body physically, on a health and physical level, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. So again, it is very important. And that symbolism is that from that movie or whatever it was, that's exactly what that was symbolizing. Was the spirituality aspect of it.
She definitely turned into a monster. Like, she had taken on that sex demon from having sex with somebody, and every time that she had sex with men, she was attacking them.
But she didn't kill that one because that was the only one that she
helped
actually had
kill her.
affection.
He helped kill her.
Yeah.
Her heart, that wound that
He
she had
killed
in
her
heart.
best friend, but that was the only one. You're right. He's the only one that she had that affection. So everything else was detachment to heal something that never was healed. So let's get into the sex expo. Would you like to at least, we can start off just letting everybody know what it was, when is it, and what it consists of?
Okay, so it's the Principles of Pleasure Expo. It is November 19th and 20th of this year. Everybody that knows what sensual bliss is or has experienced a show or an event know that we do an annual lingerie show called Bedroom Bliss every year in November. We do some summer shows periodically, but our known show is the Bedroom Bliss show. It is a very intimate, sexy, sensual event that everybody looks forward to that follows us. But this year we are coupling it with a 2-day convention. And that convention is not just a sex expo. It is a sexual health and wellness expo with a mental health aspect and a kink aspect. So you can come and experience some live performances, some educational seminars. We'll have a panel on mental health, different vendors and things of that nature. So if you want to be a vendor or you want to perform, hit me up because we do still have some openings. We have quite a few actually, so bring it on. But one of the big things that is going to happen at the expo is that we will have HIV and Hep C testing on the spot, and resources that will be provided for individuals there. Mental health, like I said, we'll have some mental health providers that will have booths and everything. Toy businesses, adult toy businesses, sexual wellness vendors. Like we got big spectrum. We have a mental health seminar that will be happening in the classroom, and then we have some kink seminars that will happen. Like we got some oral sex classes. We've got classes about toys and how to use them safely and things of that nature. We have one of my counterparts, Tia Mona, the owner of Queen's Intuition. She will be doing a seminar on how to manifest with your sexual energy, using your sexual energy. So yeah, we got some non-binary classes as well, like oral sex classes for non-binary individuals.
It helps. It's just interesting to me because a non-binary is someone who doesn't identify with any type of gender. So
and that's Jay is teaching that one.
So a non-binary individual.
Yes.
Okay. I don't want to offend.
She's non-binary.
Was she born a man or born a woman?
Oh, woman.
Okay.
So she will be in the building doing that. So that's very interesting to me. Like I said, so I will personally be in her class. But so we have, like I said, some live performances, burlesque, dance. Might have some fashion performances in there, little mini lingerie or mini fashion shows.
I love this for the women of Louisville because,
and it is a co-ed event. I get asked that all the time. All genders, men, women, non-binary, come single,
come on out.
Just like our lingerie events, they're co-ed. That's all gender spectrum. So come on out, get educated, have fun, indulge in whatever your interests are. Get educated. That's the biggest thing, is that we are out here trying to educate people and provide resources. So yeah, we have tickets on the sensualblisslife.com website. We also have tickets on Eventbrite. All you have to do is search the Principles of Pleasure Expo in Louisville.
I love
I'm excited. I'm really excited. I definitely plan on attending. One of the things that I look forward to seeing happen more and more was that we grow the teen community to help people explore safely, to learn that sexual health. And I do think sex health and mental health, they kind of walk hand in hand, because when you're not in the right headspace, you are liable to do more dangerous things with your body, with your mindset, and how you move through life. So I did want to bring up the kinks. She said that there was going to be a kink education class. So a lot of people they use the word kink and fetish interchangeably, and those words are not interchangeable. Kink is something that turns you on, is something that you are aroused by, that you seek pleasure in, but a fetish, if a kink becomes a fetish when it's your primary source of pleasure. So if you find yourself liking toys and you never want to engage with a guy, like it starts off as kink, you exploring these toys, but then it's like, yeah, I don't need to be penetrated. I can use my toys and get there every time. It's become a fetish. So I think people coming out and being able to explore their kinks and get into, okay, well, this could bring me pleasure, or even just learning about what the kinks are, because there are so many of them.
There are people like sucking toes. I mean, it's just I've heard some weird fetishes for real, but
I ain't no kink.
That's not a word. That might not be word to everybody, because I've liked my toes, but I'm not sucking the toes.
Yeah, but some people don't like feet. Some people who don't like feet, they would look at that as weird. Yeah.
So listen though, because I have never been a person that likes feet, and I still don't like feet. Like, I'm not touching, rubbing your feet.
Right.
Me either.
And I used to did not let anybody touch my feet. Getting a pedicure was really like a big step for me. But I had someone that
Yeah, the foot fetish.
he did, and baby, listen.
They be doing some things that will make love to your feet. I dated a guy with a foot fetish as well.
But I think it was more of just in the moment, because he would rub my feet, or whatever. But it was the in the moment, in the session, sucking and
he wanted your feet on him, feeling them on his shoulder.
Yeah.
Licking the bottom, sucking the toe.
I want to say this though, it's like I feel like there is a lot of misconception when it comes to sex work, because what we talked about today is a lot of positive that comes with it. I feel like what you're doing is so positive for women. I feel like what everybody is bringing to the table as far as what you do is very positive. It's not like this reckless community of people. It's actually intention in it, like you said. You have to have intention in it. So I love the fact that you are wanting to teach women to have that confidence, because I've had conversations with women who was not very confident in the bedroom, which in turn, makes them very insecure people, and they start being insecure towards other women who have a little bit more confidence in themselves. So I do it, ladies and gentlemen, if you are needing help, mental health, if you are struggling with your confidence, with just having answers of how to please your partner, please yourself, definitely come to the Sex Expo, the Sexual Wellness and Health, Mental Health Expo.
And even aside from the expo, you need a one-on-one type thing. King Tiff and the Sensual Bliss Life will help you get there. Okay, so don't miss out on these opportunities or these resources.
Don't think that it's just women either. I know you mentioned men. I am open to coaching men as well, because I have. But we do focus more on women, because that's who our movement is geared towards. I mean, we started out women only, women. And I started not really getting backlash for like, why you don't be married for men? You don't never do no events for men.
We need some for ourselves.
That's the end of the day, right? I know women. You know what I'm saying? I know what we struggle with. Mainly because, one, I'm a woman, but two, men don't express much. Now, are they getting better? Yes, but it's still a very slow process. It is at a snail's pace. And I'm about to plug something real quick. This coming Wednesday, September the 28th, myself and Lyric are hosting Beyond Bliss, the Aphrodisiac Forum. We're going to be doing this monthly and eventually twice a month, but it is just a setting. You're going to come in. You get to taste aphrodisiac-based food or drink, and have conversation. And then we kind of lead into like this panel aspect where people can write down anonymous questions or ask questions about anything. But of course, you think aphrodisiac, you see Tiffany, you see lyric, and it's always going to be what focus? Sex focus. So, but we're trying to get more men and male mask individuals in the space, because we are trying to see what's up here, like, you know, and teach and let them know, like, as women, as them, like, what we like when it comes to intimacy.
Not just sex, because intimacy is different from sex.
Correct. So that's where it stems from. This, you know, event series stem from, is because we like, we keep getting, I've got a little sexologist crew. We keep getting asked about, or the topic keeps coming up about, you know, intimacy and why they're not showing more affection, or, you know, they don't know what intimacy is. Why is that? Like, these are constant questions.
That's a real
Like you
issue,
said, how
though.
somebody was raised sometimes.
Yes,
Yeah.
so we are just trying to get more of the guys and mask identifying individuals in the space so that we can have open dialogue about that.
I really do love it, because like my brand, saving our ladies, saving the women. And honestly, I feel like when we talk about like healing the Black community, when I talk to guys and they hear about my business, they're like, well, what about the guys? What are you gonna do? I personally, as a teacher and as a woman, have come across the issues of men being intimidated or feel like I'm flat out wrong, or, you know, they don't want to be led or healed or taught by a woman.
Right.
And so
I think men need to stand up.
Exactly.
And do that for them.
But I think a lot of it for me, I feel like in my personal life, the men that I have interacted with, I have left each one of them better. And because I am the type of person that I am, I don't leave demolished from those situations. I come, I teach, I you know, like we get better. And I'm like, okay, well, this isn't really serving the higher self that I am matriculating to. So this relationship isn't going to work. But
Because you got to be poured into too. You pour so much.
And so I personally feel like when it comes to healing women, like the more women we heal, the more they can be in those intimate spaces with their partners and teach their partners stuff. So like my partner now, my fiance, when we first got together, he didn't know he had kinks. He didn't know he had things that he really enjoyed. And me creating a safe space for him to explore that allowed him to open up and find things that he can now tell me, like, this is what I like, this is what I want. And I had been with a lot of guys who didn't like, oh, you a hoe because you like to this, that, and that. I had my oldest son said he thought I was a hoe for wanting to have sex more than one time in a day and for wanting to get in head. He was like, I don't feel like as my woman, you should be on your knees doing that. You shouldn't be doing that. And I'm like, that's how he was raised. That's what he thought. And I would try to work through that healing process. I'm like, well, why do you feel like that? And ultimately it was the Madonna complex. He had me on self. He wanted me to be the Virgin Mary. He had me on a pedestal. He didn't want to look at me as a sexual creature. But when you deal with men like that, they often go out and sexualize other women and berate other women, and then come home and ideologize you and put you on a pedestal and like make sure that you're not doing anything like that. So I feel like with healing women, we can help break that cycle because they can go back into men. But I love that you are, you know, creating the space for men to actually come out and talk and learn.
It just reminded me that, have y'all heard of Girl Code?
Yes.
Okay, so there's now a Bro Code. The first one is this Friday.
Oh.
So hopefully that will start doing the same thing, because guys need that space too.
Yes,
we're
do.
Not saying that y'all
don't deserve
it.
We're not saying it at all.
I agree. There needs to be men to stand up to want to heal. Like, bro, y'all know y'all not perfect. Y'all need to start taking accountability for y'all. Like, we're taking accountability for. We may have insecurities and we're trying to heal that. They need to do that. Heal it.
That's the goal. Ultimately the goal. Like, we gotta heal our community piece by piece. And everybody don't like you know, what do I say on every episode? We can just burn it all down and start over. But nobody wants to do that. So since we are going to try to heal from the things that hurt us within the system that hurt us, we have to be very meticulous about how we do it. And it's like, it's not going to be a one size fit all. Like, I'm only focusing on ladies, but it's going to be important that there are women that men feel safe to talk to and come to, because I feel like with me, like you said, some men, they sexualize me and they won't, you know, they want to be in my space, and then they get in my space and like, oh, she gonna eat me up. This thing out every time.
Just like that. Yeah.
Like, incompetence when it comes to men, the inconsistency, the lack of, leadership and stuff. Like when a man is basking in his feminine energy, I call him on it. Like, baby, we're not gonna do that. We're not gonna do that in my presence. And so, I mean, if you are in your feminine energy, that's cool, but we both can't be in our feminine energy here in this space right now. So that's what I am to a lot of guys. So I know, like, I'm gonna have to heal.
We're gonna be catty towards one another.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to heal before I can teach and reach men. But like, I focus on my men. I have 3 boys, 3 sons, a fiance. Like, I have a community of men that I have to focus on. And I think that's important.
Absolutely. So once again, when is the Sexual Wellness Expo?
It is November 19th and 20th. The hours are 11 to 7.
All day affair.
Yes, and on Saturday the 19th is Bedroom Bliss. It starts at 9 p.m.
Let's go. You don't want to miss this show. Make sure y'all get on sensualblisslife.com, buy your tickets.
Sensual, I keep doing, but it's right here, sensualblisslife.com. So sensualblisslife.com, sensualblisslife.com. Or you can get tickets on Eventbrite. Look for the Principles of Pleasure Expo. The Principles of Pleasure Expo.
The Principle of Pleasures Expo. Do not miss it. We had this talk today just to kind of touch on the kink community, the education, the sexologists, and as well as this expo. So we keep stressing it because we deserve to have these type of spaces. And if we don't fill the space when it's given to us, then what happens to it?
We lose
You use it or lose it.
Yes, so with that said, thank you so much for coming.
Thank y'all for having me.
Thank
This was a
you.
great
Beautiful
conversation.
You're healing, and this is Melanated Television. My name
This is Kendra Rochelle, and our guest, Miss King Tiff. You can follow her on Facebook at Tiff.
Instagram handle is Sensual Bliss Life, or